Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy, and we also do training. Check us out. And today is episode 126, which is storytelling in UX research, which will have special guest Michele Ronsen joining momentarily. And she must have been our last guest because her name was already in my system. I didn't even have to type it today. That was very convenient. So just a couple of quick reminders to everybody. Please do subscribe. Oh, wrong button. Please do subscribe here on YouTube. And won't you please usability test the bell so you know when we're live, which is around 4 times a week, including Tuesday office hours Ask Me Anything and Friday reaction stream. Deb reacts to crazy stuff you send in. And you can join our Slack community, absolutely no charge, no membership, deltacx.link/join Slack. Hello, Charlene. So I think that mostly, and quickly let me remind people, if you want to know what's coming up on the channel, go to deltacx.link/events. Oh, I-10 must be here. I see the pandas. You can always catch that there and check out what we've got coming up next. So there are all the links you need to know. Now, I'm always happy to be joined by Michele Ronsen. I just want to mention for those of you watching the video version, for some reason her video is coming in at a very low frame rate, but so her video looks frozen a lot, but her audio sounds great. So you're just going to have to imagine a more animated and fluid Michele Ronsen because for some reason the video is a little bit blippy today. But let's bring her in and she can tell you all about her. Welcome, Michele, and thanks for joining us, one of our most frequent guests. And I will spell your name for those doing the audio-only version, and that is Michele. Ronsen is Ronsen, and you can find her at curiositytank.com. Michele, introduce yourself. Who are you? Why do we like you so much?
Hey, so glad to be back. Hey, Debbie. Hi, everyone. Super glad to be back talking with you today about research storytelling. As you know, my name is Michele Ronsen. I'm the founder of Curiosity Tank in the Ask Like a Pro user research series. Super passionate about helping people learn how to ask better questions so that they can make more informed decisions. Curiosity Tank is a consulting firm. I still do research. I'm working on a research project right now, and I educate people around the world, both individuals, and run corporate trainings, and also deliver trainings through educational institutions to help people upskill in the world of user research.
Super. And we've already have some people in the chat room welcoming you and saying hello. So since we collected some questions from the Slack universe before this even started, we're going to jump in with those questions. If you have questions, you can add them to the YouTube or LinkedIn chat, but I'm going to hold them until after we answer all of the questions that our friends in the Slack chat sent in. So first, Michele, why does storytelling matter?
Well, one of our biggest goals as user researchers is to move our teams from instinct to action, right? We don't want to conduct research just for research's sake. We don't want to conduct research to just check off a box. What we want to ensure that our team is actually acting on what we learn. So research storytelling is one method to help us help the people that we bring our information with and inspire them to on our learning. It helps bring shape and a human side and a connection to the study results that we are sharing with them.
Thanks. Your audio is cutting out a little bit, and the audience is wondering if maybe you should try turning off your video because maybe it's eating up too much bandwidth. We would miss seeing you, but I'm trying to save your audio. There should be a button on the screen that temporarily kills your camera. Let's see if that works. It'll be me sitting next to a giant black box, though. That'll be strange, but let's try it. So for the next question, how is storytelling similar or different from just presenting a case study?
Great question. So, storytelling in research shareouts is different from when we present a case study in that the goal is very different. When we present a case study, the goal is to share more about ourselves, our role, and the impact that our research had. And that impact can take many different forms. That could be in terms of the product, it could be in terms of the outcome, it could be cultural impact, it could be end user impact, it could be business impact, it could be stakeholder impact, external impact, etc. When we're presenting our research learnings to our internal teams, we probably haven't realized any impact yet because nobody has acted on the results. Our goal in the storytelling for our shareouts is to encourage our teams to act on our learnings and to help them act on our learnings in the quickest, most effective, and efficient ways.
And I'm going to try to put up a picture of you where the weird black screen is, but your audio was better. Okay, so how can we demonstrate the impact that our research has?
In a case study format, well, first of all, let me make sure. Go ahead, Debbie.
Oh no, you sent me the question. So what did you mean?
Oh, in the case study format. So oftentimes when we present our research, as I mentioned earlier, we don't yet know the impacts of it. Sometimes we will realize the impacts through the course of actually conducting the study. Some of those impacts might be cultural, for example, where we have stakeholders actually participating in research for the first time. Maybe the customer support team is actually taking notes. Maybe our product manager or our designers or other key stakeholders are actually participating in the analysis and synthesis, right? So the impacts themselves can really vary. Some impacts can be realized throughout the study, but most impacts in terms of external, for example, say we're influencing actions outside of the company, such as changing direction in an industry or a field, or creating a new standard or a best practice, or maybe a way to format something or track something. Maybe we're shifting social behaviors or norms or scorecards. Those impacts won't be realized for a period of time, right? We need to actually act on the research learnings in order for those to be realized. So when you're presenting your case study, it's smart to put in reminders, go back to your stakeholders after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, maybe a year, so that you can get an update on what impact the work actually had.
Great, thank you. And I've added a photo of you, so now it's a little more lifelike. Doing my best here. We have a chat room question. Kayleen is wondering, is our discussion today going to be more about storytelling in sharing research with our stakeholders and our coworkers, or is this going to be more about sharing research or storytelling in our portfolio?
We can cover both. Some of the questions that came in were about both, and I'm happy to discuss whatever is of interest.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so this will be a little of both, everybody. So the next question that we got in the Slack chat earlier was, what are different formats for sharing our study results?
Great question. So the format that you choose should be culturally relevant. And by that, I mean, what is most meaningful and relevant to the audience that you're presenting to. So some of the most common formats that I use, that my clients use, are something called a top-line report, which might be a 2 or 3 page Word document. Sometimes we're reporting just on the goals and what we learned. Sometimes we're going to include some key quotes to bring those participants to life and to underscore what some of those learnings were and to put those into context. Other times we might be creating a slide deck that's a little bit more robust. We might embed some video highlight reels. We might embed some key quotes. We might embed some different artifacts along the way. Maybe we conducted some activities inside of the interviews we conducted, or we might include some pictures of the participants to help put a name to the face and build that connection. Other times we might build mini museums. We might bring it to life in a larger way, more in a documentary style movie. I've seen other researchers build websites. There's a lot of different ways that we can manifest the learnings, and these should really, the deliverables should be determined in the planning phase, so that you know what to plan for in terms of time, but also which artifacts to collect along the way, so you can actually succeed in delivering upon whatever is promised in the final format.
Thanks. Now, this isn't from our list of questions, but I get this one from time to time. When we are doing, let's say we're going to compile video clips or a video montage, is it always necessary to try to anonymize these people? Because sometimes we've met them on Zoom, their name is up there. Do we always have to anonymize it, or sometimes is it okay to have their name up there?
Data policies is getting much stricter. I'm actually working with an attorney now to update all of my own policies and the student policies, those who participate in the Ask Like a Pro series. So I would definitely get into the habit of anonymizing everything. If you want to use a name, you may use a fictitious name. You may also, some tips and tricks there are to ask the participants to remove their name in the Zoom setting, or you can actually pre-program your Zoom settings so it doesn't capture it. Some areas in Europe particularly can't even have identifiable voices. Now, my voice isn't particularly identifiable. If you heard me talk out of context, it's not as if you would know who I am, but some people have very, very identifiable voices, and that's something to anonymize as well.
Okay, super. Thanks. Good to know that policies on that are shifting, and we should move towards more anonymization, if that's the right word. Charlene asks if you have any books or articles that you can recommend, or good examples of how to do or improve storytelling.
I do. You know what? I'll make a note of this, and let's put those in the show notes.
Okay, super. Send them over to me in Slack, and I'll get them in the YouTube description after the show. So everybody check there later. Thank you. And then don't forget to leave a comment for the algorithm. Okay, so going back to our list of questions from the Slack universe, let's see. How do we choose the right deliverable format, and when do we make that choice?
So the deliverable format should be discussed and agreed upon in the planning phase, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. And this is really important because you're going to want to plan for collecting the artifacts that you will need to populate that deliverable format. You're also going to want to plan for the time it will take to compile that format and any resources that you may need to support you in delivering that final format. So for example, maybe you're creating highlight reels and you're not very comfortable with editing. Perhaps you'll have to bring in an editor or someone to help, or you might need access to a tool that you don't yet have. So in the planning phase, you should be discussing and agreeing upon what the final deliverable format is for planning purposes, for logistics purposes, and for cultural purposes as well. It may also impact the budget and the timeline in the resource allocation. In the plan workshop, in the Ask Like a Pro series, we talk a lot about the deliverables up front for this explicit reason. I lost your audio. I can't hear you. Should I hang up and, yeah, your audio died. Real life technical blip, everyone. Should I just keep talking? I can just talk. Okay, well, let's talk about how we plan for research share outs. Okay. Um, So one of the biggest considerations when you're getting ready to share out with your team is to really understand the logistics and the culture, right? These two things are super key to your success. So some of the logistic considerations you're going to want to know in advance are, will you be presenting live or will you be presenting asynchronously, right? Will the people be consuming the learnings in real time, or will they be consuming the learnings after the fact or at different paces, right? Or is it going to be both, right? Is it going to be both a live delivery that's recorded and then other team members are going to watch it after the fact? Will there be more than one presentation? Do these presentations have similar or different goals? And in terms of the culture, do they need to understand the methodology and the rigor that was applied or not, right? Are they looking to understand your capabilities or expertise, as in the need with a case study or not? So logistics and culture are really key. And the goals will also differ as well. So typically in a research share out, your goal may be to either just inform or share, like this is what we did, this is what we learned, or is the goal to build credibility and consensus or persuade the team to do something? For example, this is what we learned, how we propose we or you move forward. Or is the goal to really immerse and bring the research participants to life? And by the way, that might not be that in it of itself can be a goal, or that can be a goal that's added on to some other goals as well. Or maybe the goal is to choose or act, right? This is what we learned. We have some options to evaluate together and how to move forward. Is to go over what we learned and to choose a path forward. Or perhaps in more of a case study format, interview format, your goal is to reveal or demonstrate your own accomplishments or expertise, right? So this is more likely to happen in a job interview setting. So the people who you are interviewing and presenting to, they want to know who you are. They want to hear your voice. They want to learn more about you and your work and your process in particular. Okay, but that's really only relevant in a case study format, not in a share out for an internal team.
Hey, I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome back.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's like all the technical glitches that can possibly happen happening at the same show. I apologize. My somehow my microphone USB disconnected and it's not reconnecting. So I've called in as guest number 2.
I love it. I love it. This is a very real world, technical, agile, improv situation.
Yes, the live chat is still working. Everybody, I see some of you are writing me to Slack, like on Slack, like, can you still see the live chat? Yes, I still do see the live chat. So let me just go roll back a little bit and check in with the live chat because I was trying to fix my audio problem. I hope people can hear me okay. Afzal says, I've been watching your videos the past week on micro lessons. I'm glad to see it live today. Thank you for watching those. Kayleen says, I don't know if this is off topic, but when asking for help from colleagues, say a video editor, is that also a confidentiality or legal thing to consider? So Kayleen, if I can answer that quickly, typically everybody who works with me has signed the same confidentiality agreement. So it's not like I have to keep people confidential from my coworkers. Michelle, is there anything you want to talk about there with relation to anything you've learned about confidentiality within an organization or with contractors?
I agree, Debbie. So the people that I've worked with and my students all sign the same NDAs and confidentiality agreements when we're working with a client. If they are employees, they have already signed that same confidentiality agreement. If you're bringing in someone new to the mix, say like a video editor or a writer or something, then yes, you would want them to sign the same non-disclosure and other agreements. Oh, I lost your audio again.
Okay, you should hear me now.
Yep.
Looking at the chat room, let's see. Charlene says, in one of my previous workplaces, we went outside and we asked people questions related to the company and the various products we have and captured it in video and then played parts of it back to our stakeholders. Is that part of storytelling?
That could very well be a great way to tell your story. Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. I love doing the video clips or the video montages. I mean, nobody tells the story as well as the people with the story. Let's see. We have another chat room question, and then we'll go back to the questions you sent me. Let's see. From your past experiences, have you noticed whether the audience can accurately predict what deliverable format they want? Ooh, interesting question.
Um, Predict is an interesting word here. So again, usually this is discussed in the planning process. We, in instances where people may not be familiar, I'm going to lean on what is most culturally relevant and what has had impact in the past. So again, in most of my work, I'm producing a top line report. I'm producing a multiple page slide deck with video clips and highlight reels. I'm going to use quotes and stories and images to bring my participants and that story to light. Um, Other people might use audio clips or artifacts. Sometimes we use artifacts from some of the activities. But these scenarios and photographs and different clips, and also if we're testing a prototype, we'll include the prototype, any sort of tays or immersions or narratives. All of these things can help bring our story to life.
Great, thank you. So going back to the list of questions you sent me that you had compiled from the Slack channel, what were we up to? Were you working off that list while I was running around trying to figure out my audio? Did you get to research shareouts?
I got to research goals and logistics and culture. So in terms of share outs, there's lots of different formats that we can use. Again, most popular is going to, for me, is going to be the top line report and a slide deck presentation. Now, something that I am a big advocate of and really try to have my students do also is share what I refer to as research snacks, right? And these are kind of like flash findings while we are conducting the study. And the flash findings could be a quick update about who we talked to today in one key quote, or how many people we talked to one day, or something really interesting that happened. But the research snacks help to get the team involved, and they help the team begin to marinate what the learnings are in real time.
Cool. And we've got a question here. Maggie wants to know any tips to reduce the amount of time or make more efficient putting together the deliverables.
Well, my approach is to build in a systematic format, and constraints are your friend. So in the Ask the Pro series, we start with the research plan, and then we build the survey screener, and then we build the discussion guide. And then while working our research, we're sharing our research snacks and our quick updates. And then we do something that's called a debrief sheet. And we complete the debrief sheet, which is just like a super high level version of the top takeaways, evidence to support them, and the ramifications or the impact or what this means or why we should care about these top takeaways. Then we repurpose that and flesh it out into a top line report. And then we repurpose the top line report and we flesh it out into a slide deck. Outline itself, that outline is created in something like a Google Doc or Notion, not the deck itself. Once we have that fleshed out with our artifacts and our evidence to support our conclusions, then we move to the slide deck format. I have a huge, robust slide deck format that's already templated and color coded and everything like that. So it makes it easier for the students to focus just on the research learnings.
And I10 has a question. If you don't have access to end users and you end up gathering your data by talking to internal people like sales or customer support, is it professional to quote their opinion based on their conversations with clients?
So whenever you're soliciting feedback from anybody, you need to get permission. You need the permission to record them, to quote them, to report on them. When you're doing something internally with employees, I think it's extra important to take that extra step and make sure they're comfortable with you sharing that information. Maybe they would like you to completely anonymize it, or maybe they're comfortable with you sharing it, but you have to ask.
Good idea. Yes, make sure everybody has signed consent and understands how these things will be used. Did you already answer the question we got? That was, how do we make our research shareouts interesting and engaging?
So our research shareouts are going to, now I'm going to have to switch to Wi-Fi again. My goodness, this is an exciting day. Let's go for
Do-over.
That was comical.
What a strange day. To those of you listening to the audio version in the future, I apologize. You might be having a better experience than those of us here in the live show. Michelle, did you switch your internet already?
Yeah, can you hear it?
Yeah, you're back?
I'm back. Okay.
Okay. Go, go, go. Uh-oh.
So what are they looking to learn, and how will these learnings be applied? In many instances, I'm doing more than research share out. I'm doing maybe a research share out with the design team, and they need specific information, and maybe a research share out with the executive team, and they are looking for different information. So I want to, again, make sure I'm understanding the logistics, the culture, and the goals of the audience, and constraints on your friends. So when we all about in the like approach, identifying these constraints up front. Now, constraints could be, whether you're presenting live or whether you're presenting asynchronously, how much time you have, who will be presenting. Are you presenting the entire thing yourself? Maybe your stakeholders are presenting along with you. All of these things should be well rehearsed and considered in advance. And it's also probably to take into consideration about why presenting is right, and as many of those barriers.
Hey, this Wi-Fi is not as good as the other Wi-Fi. You're blipping a lot, right? Do other people hear that too? I thank everybody today for their patience with all of our technical issues. Did people hear Michelle blipping, or was that only for me? I don't know. Someday I'm going to have to get you on some other Wi-Fi. Yeah, I10 says
How's
it was
that?
hard to hear, and Charlene said we missed a few words here and there. Did you switch back?
I switched back. How's that going?
Okay, so far I'm
I'll
just
keep
going to
talking.
cross all the fingers that I have. So yes, interesting and engaging research shareouts. Go, go, go.
Okay, so in order to make them interesting and engaging, we first want to understand our audience. Is it flipping again? Maybe
No,
I
so
should
far
call
it's
in too.
okay. No, I'm calling in
Okay.
the same way you're calling in.
Oh gosh. Okay. So, okay, let's get to research share. So we want
Yeah,
our
it's
research
better.
share to be interesting and engaging. And in order to make it interesting and engaging, we need to understand our audience. What is our audience looking to learn, and at what level? What is going to be meaningful and relevant to them? So this will relate directly to the goals that I discussed earlier. Is the goal to inform and share? Is the goal to build credibility or consensus or persuade them to do something? Is the goal to immerse them and to bring the research participants to life? Is the goal to make some decisions in that meeting? Is the goal, in the case of a case study, in contrast, to reveal something about yourself or to demonstrate your own accomplishments or your expertise? Right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to understand the goals. You want to understand the logistics and the culture and what's going to be relevant. And then you also want to understand your constraints, right? How much time do you have? Are you going to be presenting live or asynchronously, and so forth?
All right, let's move on to the next question while we've got some good audio. Let's see. The next question that we have from the chat was, the Slack chat was, when is it appropriate not to tell a story?
This is a great question. So stories aren't always helpful, right? Sometimes you're moving too quickly. Sometimes, certainly in the case of rolling research, where you're running an iterative study every week, you just want to report on exactly what happened, right? Maybe you're going to report simply on the goals, what you set out to learn, and what you did learn. And other times it's necessary. I have found with the more UX mature organizations, the less the need is to tell story after story. A researcher's responsibility is to report on what you learned and nothing more, right? Insights in storytelling are definitely more advanced. Neither is expected of every practitioner, and neither is relevant or needed in every presentation. We do not need to figure out new solutions. We do not need to figure out a story. That is not necessarily the researcher's job. It's definitely a more advanced skill of a researcher, but presenting recommendations and stories may not be needed or expected. And here are some instances, right? In usability research, it may not be effective at all. In fact, it may just be a waste of time. And in generative research, it may not be effective and it may be a waste of time. So at minimum, what you want to do is create either research snacks and a top line report, or in the case of my experience, we're creating at minimum a top line report and a highlight reel of evidence to support at least the themes. And that's typically taking place in a live presentation that we record so that other team members can listen to the live presentation in the future, as well as hear the questions and answers. So we're presenting it live and we get that interaction and that engagement. And then also in my first presentations, I still have draft on every single slide, because the first time I share this information with the broader team, I'm also using it as a means to pilot, right? I'm using it as a means to make sure that it's clear, it's easy to understand, it act upon, and so forth. So after I present it the first time, I'm going to take all of their feedback and then revise it to address their core requests.
Excellent, thanks. Next question that we compiled from earlier is, what tips do you have to bring our research stories to life?
Well, we talked earlier about including images, about quotes. We talked about video highlight reels. A way to do this, a journey, a 5-minute kind of walkthrough, or some sort of persona or empathy mapping or stakeholder mapping. Visual markups are another thing. Artifacts from your studies. So sometimes I might conduct a study and I might ask my participants to actually mark up a prototype or mark up something, like put a green circle on everything that really resonates to you and put a red X on things that don't. But all of these things can help tell the story as well. Mini museums are also really fun. And storyboards also. Storyboards can be really, really helpful. It depends, again, what are we looking to learn and what are the goals, what's culturally relevant, how much time do you have, and things like that.
Super. And Kayleen wants to know, how do you identify when storytelling is needed versus when it's not needed?
So I would rule out storytelling. This might be easier to organize it mentally. I would rule out storytelling for anything strictly usability focused. Okay, it just might not be needed or effective or efficient on exactly what you set out and what you learned. Um, and in generative research, we don't necessarily know enough at that. We're at the very, very beginning stages to generate a story. And again, it might not be helpful at that point. Um, so those would be kind of two tips and rules of thumb. Actionable, helpful. You got it.
Yes, don't forget. So I really love our next question. Thanks to whoever sent it in the Slack universe. When something comes back from the research results and it feels negative, like maybe it proves or shows that our project is going in the wrong direction, or the concept's going in the wrong direction, or the customers aren't who we thought we were. If something might feel negative to the team or stakeholders or CEO, how do we balance being honest with those research results versus squashing the hopes or opinions of the stakeholders and the people we deal with?
It's an excellent question. And I'll remind you, our role as researchers is to report on what we learned. Our role as researchers is not to sugarcoat things. Our role is to remain neutral and unbiased. I always try to include some positives, even if it's the prototype was functional, right? All of our participants showed up on time and they were appreciative that we asked for their opinions, right? I always try to include some positives. In your research outlines, and again, I suggest writing an outline in some sort of Google Doc or something like that before you move to a slide deck. Outlines can vary, right? Some outlines might include, or usually include some sort of background or context, what you set out to learn and what you learned, okay? So in those instances, maybe you're going to organize them by themes and insights. Maybe you're going to organize them by findings and insights, or organize them by themes. We try to organize at least one theme that was positive, right? And you should be able to go back to your assumptions and hypotheses that are documented in your plan to help you find these, right? You should be going back and revisiting your plan goals, your research plan goals, and your research hypotheses or assumptions, and you should be able to pull at least one positive thing out. Nobody
Yes,
likes a
for
Debbie
sure.
Downer.
Nah, even me today. I've been a bit of a Debbie Downer with my microphone disconnecting. We've got a follow-up question from Kayleen, if I can throw that at you quickly. She said, I saw a UX researcher say, if you find bad news, it's best to debrief with a manager first before creating a fire at your presentation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
The thoughts on that. Well, you should be debriefing with your entire team throughout the entire process. No surprises. You want to be presenting information already known. And in fact, if you know you're going to drop a bomb, I would leverage all of your stakeholders in advance to start sharing that information or snippets of that information in advance. You do not want to be the person that is delivering this news for the first time and catching people off guard. This is why those research snacks are super important. This is why you're going to get feedback from your stakeholder on the debrief sheet on those top level themes. You're going to get feedback from your stakeholders on the top line report. You're going to get feedback from your stakeholders on the outline for your slide deck, and you're going to get feedback from your stakeholders. I mean, their involvement is critical to your success. You want to socialize the learnings and partner with your stakeholders throughout the process so this absolutely doesn't happen.
Excellent.
I feel
Thank you.
strongly
Great
about
question,
that. Can you
Kayleen.
tell?
Yes, yes, and you had a great solution for it. That there shouldn't be any surprises or bombs. This is not the plot of an action movie. You want to include people along the way and treat them as partners rather than surprise them at the end. Um, let's see. Uh, okay, I'm trying to understand Aitan's question here. I'll put it up, but I have to admit I'm not sure I'm getting it. She said, I also heard a strategist saying, always test your presentation against the weather forecast before presenting. If the weather forecast catches more attention, your presentation is not good.
I've never heard anything related to weather. Um, I would let's ladder this up, okay? So we shouldn't be doing the research if it isn't a core business need or ties directly to the organization's business goals, OKRs, or KPIs. So it all comes back to the plan, right? And the research plan should have identified whether or not this was a willy-nilly project. It should have confirmed that it is a priority, that the stakeholders themselves have the time and the resources to contribute to the study, and this is an important initiative for us to invest in.
Right, and that means if it's less interesting than the weather report, maybe the research doesn't happen.
That's right. I mean, unless you're going through a tsunami or something, or some sort of huge disaster, which, I'm in Northern California, we're going through our own disasters. Let me touch back on visuals and narratives a bit. So visuals and
Okay.
narratives can be a super important part of your research share out, and they can really help bring the research learnings to life. Visuals and narratives speak to different ways people are to learn and ingest information. They also create visual interest. And most of you may know my background's in design. So I'm a very visual person just by nature. And I have found that as we have become as we have evolved as a species, we are also evolving more visually. If you think about how many people consume their learnings via video versus podcasts or on YouTube, etc. So creating visual interest is a great way to assist your stakeholders in helping them recall information. And they also help the teams act on your research with less friction and help demonstrate your storytelling capabilities. So visual and narratives are a great way to help your audience see your message clearly, and including a balance of both written content as well as static and dynamic visual content can really wake up your presentation and catch your listeners, let's say, or your audience's eyes, right? We can do this with charts and graphs. We can do this with uh, like a task flow analysis. We could do this with images that show our process or show a journey and how we've connected our dots. We could do these with, I mean, just a variety of ways. Word art, I mentioned highlight reels and stuff like that, but just also want to touch on the importance of visuals and narratives as well.
Great, thank you. So looking at some of the last questions we got from the Slack channel, but if anyone watching live has a question, I'm looking for the LinkedIn, at the LinkedIn chat room and the YouTube chat room. We've got two more questions that we got ahead of time. One was, who should be involved in creating the research share out?
Ideally, your core stakeholders. You are seeing all of the materials and socializing all of the materials with the core audience that needs to act on them throughout the research cycle. You there's a lot of reasons for this, and there's a lot of benefit, but the core reasons and benefits touch on something that we discussed earlier. You don't want anybody to be totally surprised, right? You want this to marinate. You want the information to be socialized so that you can have a more productive conversation. And again, our end goal is to move our teams from insights into action. Another reason is because they need to believe, right? The teams need to believe, and the research needs to be credible in order for them to act on it.
But just to clarify what you're not saying that the stakeholders should create your presentations or documents or conclusions with you. You're just saying bring them in to help socialize and get alignment or buy-in.
That's going to depend on the culture. I've worked with teams where they're having playing a huge role in what reporting on and how we're positioning it. And, and I've worked with teams where it's solely on the to do, and in many situations in between. We've discussed
Okay,
other qualitative research also.
your audio is blipping a little, but I think people mostly got that. The last question we got ahead of time from the Slack channel was, can you share some tips about being a more confident presenter?
Yes, this really comes down to confidence, right? And improving your confidence. And that get in the way of you being confident. And being a confident presenter requires you to know your material backwards and forward. It requires to be comfortable with the content that you're presenting, the format that you're presenting. It requires you to be natural and authentic. And in order to feel confident in what we are presenting and how we are presenting in order to be successful. So again, I'm going to tie it back to these strategic goals, right? You want to understand what the goal of each presentation is. It's going to be different. You want to understand your logistics and the culture, right? Do you have half an hour? Do you have an hour? Or is this a 2-hour workshop? What are the goals, right? What are the stakes at play? What is the end result? What is going to be most meaningful and relevant to the audience that you're speaking for? So practice, practice, practice. Pilot. Constraints are your friends.
Yes, I was going to say practice, practice, practice by reading your presentation or performing your presentation at least twice. For the love of the God of your choice, please run spell check. I can't believe the things that I see in some of these presentations. And also, if you're something like PowerPoint, please take the time to align things that should look aligned so that your presentation comes across as neat and polished. Again, I'm amazed at how many PowerPoints I see that do not look like that and have spelling mistakes or sentences that never end or whatever. You have to read these out loud and practice. Any other tips, Michelle, on presenting? Michelle says she lost my audio. It sounds like we lost Michelle. Let's check what my system says. I've lost Michelle. Does anybody else hear her? Okay, Kayleen only hears me. So we don't hear you. I'm writing to her in Slack because she doesn't hear me and we don't hear her, but Kayleen hears me, so I know I'm still alive. Charlene hears me, so I know I'm still here. I do apologize for all of the technical difficulties we have had. You know, we did a show last year where my microphone, again, disconnected itself in the middle and I couldn't get it to reconnect, and I ended up having to call in as a guest. So that's how I knew what to do here. I just wasn't prepared for it. But yeah, we don't have Michelle's audio at all. No audio. Maybe close browser and come back. So yeah, we'll try to see if Michele can come back, and not too sure what's happening there. If you have any last questions, do please write them down, because the show will be winding up, not just because of technical difficulties, but because it is time. So if you have any questions, let me know. Here's me calling back in as guest number 2 through my phone. So maybe I should have Michele try calling in from her phone next time. Maybe we would get some better audio from that than whatever's going on with her computer. We'll have to pilot that. Pilot, everybody, pilot. And I do have my guests join 15 minutes before for us to test audio and video. And strangely, Michele's is usually blippy and strange, and she says everyone says it sounds great except me. So we just have some weird collision here. I think you're back.
I'm back.
All right, let me take down my photo of you. Please hold. Let's see. A photo of you on top of you. Hi, Michele.
Hi, weirdest ever. I'm back,
It's
and
like hugs.
I know. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Yes.
I'd like to just for a minute about being or not users when reporting on qualitative research, and this is something that comes up a lot, and newbies or people who are less experienced mistake often. So if I can, just a quick tip. People ask all the time, or they should ask, do you use numbers when reporting on qualitative research findings? The answer is it depends. What I'm referring to is, in general, avoid listing quantities like 8 participants, right? The reason being is because qualitative research gathers data from fewer people compared to quantitative researchers or quantitative. We want to be super careful about whether we include a number of who did or said what, because a less experienced audience will typically generalize that. So if we say able, they will generalize mean 80% of the audience. That cannot, generalization cannot be made. So I just really want to be careful that we at least touch on this, because it's important. And I see these in case studies a lot. And it is a very clear indicator to me this personally have an understanding of the risks of case. Again, we cannot make these generalizations confidently, and it's really a framing issue. Let me pause there.
I think we got most of that. There was a lot of audio blips, unfortunately, but I think we got it. If I heard you correctly, you said that where you do have numbers related to some qualitative stuff, you don't want to overgeneralize and make it sound like 80% of your audience is going to feel a certain way if 8 out of 10 participants felt a certain way or did a certain thing. It sounds like it's better to specify that it was 8 out of 10 participants or many participants. Am I in the right ballpark?
Yes. So what I want to do, refrain from using language such as 8 out of 10 participants, because the people that we are sharing our research with may generalize that according to a larger population. 8 out of 10 participants agreed that this was a better solution, and that's 80% of our population. Cannot make generalization with confidence.
Okay, so then what is the right way to let people know that 8 out of 10 people felt a certain way or said a certain thing or did a certain task a certain way? What kinds of words should we use there? And maybe turn off your video to answer this one in case we get some better audio out of you.
Okay, so there's a couple of approaches. First, in using numbers 8 out of 10, you want to clearly indicate on that exact slide, and in that instance, in context, that we cannot make these generalizations confidently, right? This is what happened. Again, on what happened. But as a researcher, you have to clarify that this is not more broadly indicative of a general population. That is one approach, right? That most people struggled with X, and that number is meaningful as a signal, as an option to do Y is okay in my humble opinion, right? But if you do choose to report, include a disclaimer in your report so that someone reading it on their own or without you there to explain it and prevent the misinterpretation is informed about this caveat. If you don't want to do that, or that isn't enticing for or appetizing for some, you can simply say the majority.
Okay, I think that makes sense, and I think we got you, even though there are still audio blips. So I would say, Michele, I would probably turn to you now for some closing words, though hopefully we'll get most of them.
Everybody, thank you so much for your patience. I'm always happy to come on the show to talk about research and how to help you become better practitioners and up-level your skills. I invite you all on Monday night at an info session for the Ask Like a Pro series. The next cohort starts later this month. Debbie, I see you a link to register in the Slack. Share that. That would be terrific. Debbie and I have also a number of podcasts about user research. They're all about the CX channel. And come visit me at tank.com. I have a number of free resources on the website. That's curiositytank.com/resources. And I would love to connect with you all on LinkedIn. So please find me there. Let me know that you found Debbie. That's how Debbie and I act. Thank you very, very much.
Michele, thank you so much. I'm sorry again to you and to everybody else about our technical issues today. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me take down your picture on top of you. This was my desperate attempt to make Michele come to life visually today. In the future, we might try to have you call in from your phone. I'm actually, my audio is called in on my phone right now. We might want to try that one next time, because Michele will certainly be back. We absolutely love to talk to her and get information from her. Sorry again about some of the audio and video blips today, but you can also find Michele not only on LinkedIn and at curiositytank.com, but from time to time, you can find her in our Slack channel. So you can join the Slack channel at deltacx.link/join Slack. And that there's no charge for that. It's not a membership-based thing. You're just welcome to join. And since I've got a quick look at our upcoming shows, though you can always find our upcoming shows at deltacx.link/events. So tomorrow is the reaction stream, though a quick show note, instead of reaction stream, I'm going to do a quick appraisal of something like 25 boot camp programs y'all sent me. So I'm going to give quick opinions on those. Monday, we have Leon Dries coming on, talking about how to give more concise and compelling answers when you're having a job interview. Tuesday, office hours Ask Us Anything, as Darren and Darren is Hood, eventually Dr. Hood. Darren, future Dr. Hood, and Dr. Nick will be here to answer your questions. I need to go to sleep, y'all. Wednesday the 15th, I have added my micro lesson on interpreting unmoderated research. I'll show you how I do it. Michele Can people hear me?
Now
Hello?
I can. You bleeped out for a good.
Now I blipped out. Oh my God, can this day just end already? Anyway, if you want to see what's coming up, go to deltacx.link/events. I'm done with all of these technical difficulties. Michelle and I will try some different ways next time, and I'm just going to play us out of here. So everybody, please, please be well, wear lots of masks, be safe, and I will see you tomorrow talking about boot camps. So join us on Friday for a special boot camp episode. Michelle, thank you again and for your patience, and I will catch everybody tomorrow. Good night. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are